Hey guys, this is OddOneGaming. This is going to be another Dragonheir SilentGods video. In today's video, I'm going to cover another one of the Chief Challenge bosses from Season 3. And this time around is going to be the NECROSIS boss, which is the one that takes more damage from fire. So this one's one of those ones that's pretty well known because kind of the same way that we had the previous boss, that was the lightning one that I made a video on, where Radiance was the better damage. That one had the Ancient Battlefield as the boss for the fight. Well, this time around, this NECROSIS boss is actually the Grave of Curse boss. So the mechanics of it are pretty straightforward, and they're not the same, but they're similar, okay? So basically, boss does 2 battle skill, deals damage to he gains random buff for one of these 4: attack up, defense up, the damage up, or damage reduction, and then he deals necrotic damage. He does that twice, basically, whereas in the other, the Grave of Curse fight, he does a little bit different. He just gains both of the attack up and damage up, where he cleanses himself. Then he also removes shields and hits, so it's a little bit different, but, you know, it's really similar. And then the ultimate, the last hit, is basically same as the boss, but it does not put shield on itself. Basically, deals necrotic damage to all enemies. When he has 1 or more buffs, the damage will ignore immortality and invisibility and also shields. So it's pretty straightforward. In this fight, what you're gonna need is somebody to deal with these ones, okay? You wanna try and remove or block the boss from getting these buffs on him, because otherwise it's gonna be a little bit complicated. If he has damage up or attack up, he's gonna hit harder. If he has defense up or damage reduction, you're gonna hit less. So that's gonna be the first thing that you wanna keep in mind with this one. And then when it comes to the ultimate hit, well, that's not too much to keep in mind. So what I'm gonna show you is, as usual, I'm gonna do a showcase of my team that I'm using, but then I'm also gonna give you ideas of replacements. And honestly, this one is maybe the closest to a free-to-play one as possible when it comes to the heroes. But then at the same time, for the artifacts, you don't have to use you don't have to use legendary artifacts. As always, I'm always trying to say in my videos, you don't need legendary artifacts. Yes, your damage is gonna be lower, but in order to hit that 22 million, you can do it without legendary artifacts. So the first thing that the first person I'm using is actually Victor. He's arguably the MVP and possibly the best one from this pairing, because what he does on the battle skill is he dispels all their buffs and removes all their shields. There's no shield, with a 100% chance of landing buff prohibition. So basically he deals with the first 2 battle skills from the boss, but then on the ultimate he has the same thing, deals fire damage and converts up to 2 of their buffs to random debuffs, which inherit the remaining duration of the original buffs. So basically this one, if the boss has a buff still, which it shouldn't, because he's so good for this, he's going to convert the attack up into attack penalty, okay? So he's pretty straightforward. However, if you don't have Vector, because he's a legendary, let's just go over here and see, first of all, okay, buff block. Who do we have options? Kind of like the same way that I showed in the other video, where Radiance is the good damage. Well, we have Liko that can be a good option, but the tricky thing with Liko is that she only lands the, so she does this, then she inflicts buff prohibition. If the hero has any buff, they have a 100% chance of dispelling one of those buffs. So she can be good for that one, but she might not be as consistent as a Victor. However, it can work, you know, you remove one, block the other one, maybe with enough timing. The best way, I guess, that you could do it is you would ignore the first rotation, you get her on an 18-second rotation, and then you would have her go before the boss does the battle skill the first time. So that would be, let me see, so it's 18 seconds for the full rotation, then to get to the next one's 24. You would have Liko go on the 23-second, okay, and then every 18 seconds, and you should basically block the boss's ultimate from being used every single time. And she also brings you healing on the battle skill. So Liko is a good replacement for Victor. Or if you don't have Liko, you can always try to use Firar, because, well, or Fira, because she kind of does something similar, but she brings it on the battle skill, chance to land buff prohibition, and then on the ultimate hit, dispels 2 buffs from the target. So again, there's 2 options from this one. Or the third one, Livia, I would not recommend her. She doesn't have the best chance. It's only 100% to dispel a buff, but not 100% to land a buff prohibition, so I would not build her. That's the first option. Or the other option is to dispel buff or steal buffs. So when you're thinking about stuff like that, you have somebody like a Jorn that can be really good. He dispels all the buffs on the ultimate. Then you have somebody like a Dane that dispels 2 buffs on the ultimate as well. Then the next one's gonna be somebody like a Zadie that does it really well. I'm gonna start doing the run now, just so you see, like, it's full auto, works pretty fine. I'm just gonna explain everything else. So the next one that I have in my team is going to be Garius, and the reason I'm using Garius and I like him so much is because if you have the Gatekeeper staff, he's gonna be an MVP for this fight, okay? He's just gonna always land the shield. That's what I will do. I would put him to do the shield always before the boss does the ultimate, and even without having attack penalty, your team should survive all the way. It's like, that's the way that I'm doing it. I have the Gatekeeper on him, I make him land the attack panel, the shield just before the boss does his ultimate, and I pretty much survive all the way. Like, it doesn't, nothing else really matters. So if you do not have Garius, okay, so let's say you don't have the Gatekeeper staff, you can always try to use the combination of Elminster plus Liko, for example, because like even Elminster and Garius, but then you would not have somebody to deal with the buff. So it is a little bit trickier, but it can still be done. I have not personally tested it because I don't have Elminster and Liko built, but like I said, the good replacement could be Liko, because again, she brings you the buff removal, buff prohibition, and healing on the battle skill, which means she should rotate that healing pretty fast. And then you would have Elminster, which again, he brings a shield on the battle skill. And the way to control to have Elminster shield land over here is it's pretty easy, honestly. It's basically just, you have to play with the animations. What I mean by that is, well, you would basically have him land the attack penalty. If you have him on an 18-second rotation, you'd have him land the attack penalty somewhere after this one, okay? Between these two, 6 and 6, especially if you have his artifact, you can have the shield on for 6 seconds. So let's say at, what's this, 6, 12, let's say at 13, you make him do his ultimate, and then after he's gonna do that, because of the way the animations work, he should pretty much always have that battle skill ready to put those shields up. So that would be the combination of the two people that you can use. Now, when it comes to the DPS, it's obviously going to be either Wild or you can go with Burn. That's just going to depend on who are your better DPS. I don't have good enough, I don't think, actually that might be something I would have to try. I just didn't build them. I just straight out went with Wild because single target. But Burn could be a good option if you have good enablers in Ratchis. Obviously, the best one would be Ascetius because he's an exclusive. He does some crazy damage. So what you would need with somebody like him is you need, I'm just going to stop Garius from using his too early, because if the recharge speed penalty is landed, it can mess up a little bit of rotation. So you know what, I want to make sure I do the right damage so I can show you what I can do with this team. But back to the Burn team. If you have a Ratches, okay, he's the one that I basically activates burns, and he can do amazing damage. And then when it comes to the activators, you can even use the rare bigs, and then obviously somebody that's really amazing is also Karf. I do have Karf this time around. I did not have in previous seasons, so that might be something I could test. Again, that's you know, only when I will have the time to build them on the main server, because for those of you that don't know, I'm a father. I have a baby girl now, 3 weeks old actually today. So my time's kind of, you know, I don't have as much time for testing stuff as I would like. But the DPS, there's not much to explain or show, because, well, the DPS, you just build them to do damage. You don't need that much survivability if you have Garius or Elminster with the shields, because, like I said, even without the attack penalty, because honestly, Victor rarely should land it because of the way his ultimate works, but even without the attack penalty, if you have those shields from Garius and Elminster, you pretty much survive all the way. So that allows you to get as much damage as you can into this fight. And the way that I do it, for example, because the supports are, you know, Victor and Garius. Garius doesn't hit on his ultimate, and then Victor hits, but it's a single target hit on his ultimate. You need somebody that has either the Witch's Remains or obviously Crown of the Unclean, whichever you have. And for that, in my case, I have Erich with that one, okay? Because obviously Tunnelon and Felicity have a higher damage potential than him. I just have Erich with some accuracy, but still in a damage build. And then everybody else just, you know, Tunnelon and Felicity straight up went with full damage. Okay, see, because the shields were landed too early, I kind of, this is what happened. So I guess I just have to look at it a little bit closer, because again, recharge speed, that's why I don't really like recharge speed penalty in most of these fights. because it kind of screws up if you're trying to get a team in sync. If you don't want to try and get a team tuned, it just makes it fall apart because it slows down the boss. So obviously your preset, your timer doesn't work unless you have guaranteed consistent one. Then yeah, it might work. But again, when you have somebody that's so random as Victor, it's not guaranteed. But you can see I'm still getting to 50 million. I'm telling you, when I ran this earlier, this team did 60 million for me. Okay, 60 million. And I basically have 2 people that are legendary poles that can be replaced, and then it's Tunnelon and Erich, which are free ones. So from the hero point of view, it should not be that hard to replace. But you can see we're getting to 52. However, I'm just gonna back out because I might get some better stuff till the end of the week, and I'm not gonna save it. When it comes to presets, the skill timings only have Garius, like I mentioned, 17.5 and 18 seconds because he is on an 80 seconds complete recharge time. The reason for that is, again, like I mentioned, I want to have the shields before the boss goes with the ultimate. And then everybody else, I just let full YOLO because I tested having everybody go after Erich lands the defense penalty. However, somebody like a Felicity, she just does a lot more damage full YOLOing because of her passive, okay? Her passive says every time basic attack or battle skill triggers a crit, she recharges 5% ultimate energy. So she's gonna go a lot more, and if you just stop her and put her on a 20-second recharge, you're losing a lot of damage. So that's pretty much the team. Now let's have a look at the builds. When it comes to, like I said, Garius, he's in the Gatekeeper staff, and then in Ancestral Protection. And obviously, if you have a good Moonlight Mantle that gives you a 50-50 chance to increase the healing or shield effects, you're gonna want to use it because this one can be massive shields from him. And honestly, you could even use something like this on an Elminster because again, Elminster has those shields on the battle skill, and this one should work just fine. And then apart from that, I just gave him as much defense as I could in the Ancestral Protection set. Then when it comes to Victor, I gave him a damage build, basically damage with as much enlightenment, with as much skill haste as I could with the Rift Hourglass so that he can come to his battle skill and ultimate as often as possible. And then everything else you see is broken set. This is something that you want to keep in mind. If you have a good energy harvester glove that's crit rate, crit damage, and you can make a damage build, and you also have the Hourglass, it's good to pair them because if you look at this, 100 extra skill haste, well, if you multiply that by 15, basically, because it's for everyone skill haste, they gain 15 attack. This one, the combination of the Hourglass plus the glove, basically gives you 1500 attack. Keep that in mind, that's a really interesting combination. Then when it comes to the DPS, Felicity, and basically all 3 of them are going to be in the Emperor's Might because Emperor's Might is the best set to use for your DPS when it comes to these fights. It doesn't matter if they do damage based off of Enlightenment or anything else. I've tested on my Dauntless team, which normally specialize in Enlightenment. Emperor's Might was still better for a DPS set. So I just basically gave her 100% crit rate, as much crit damage and attack as I could. I'm even using Ozul's exclusive artifact because it gives me 40 crit rate. That's the best that I could. Then a crit damage glove that makes me do more damage when attacking targets under defense penalty. That's for Felicity. Erich, he's with the Witch's Remains with enough accuracy to land his stuff. And then again, Emperor's Might with crit rate gloves but with some crit damage in there. Not the best stats, you see only 156 crit damage. It is what it is, that's the best I got. And then when it comes to Tunnelon, Rabotrix's Roots is obviously the best, from my point of view, the best artifact for any DPS that's epic or lower because it gives you a ton of stats. And then again, Emperor's Might, and then with another one of these gloves, this time is the crit rate glove, that makes us do more damage when attacking targets under defense penalty. But yeah, I guess this is gonna be for today, guys. This boss is not that hard. It's just, you want those key components in there to be able to tackle him and beat him, and it should be pretty easy for everybody to hit 22 million without stressing, even if you only have average and rares, okay? Because Wild has really good damage potential, so everybody should be able to do this if you just have, again, the key components that I showed at the beginning. But I guess we're gonna leave it at this for today, guys. Thank you all for watching. As always, if you do enjoy my content, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel to see when I upload next, and I'm gonna see you on the next one. Peace, love, take care, friend. Bye, guys.